Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am super thrilled to be your guide for this one. Look, if you're the kind of learner who just wants to cut through all the noise and get straight to the absolute core of how the world works, well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're tackling the fundamentals of general biology. We're going to take this vast, incredibly complex science of life and break it down into clear, completely manageable concepts, straight from our source material. So get comfortable, and let's unravel literally the greatest mystery in the universe: life itself.
So, let's start with what sounds like a ridiculously simple question. What actually distinguishes inanimate nature, a rock, a drop of water, a gust of wind, from a living organism? I mean, a kid could tell you that a dog is alive and a stone isn't. But when we look at this from a purely scientific standpoint, that line between living and non-living matter, it becomes a totally fascinating puzzle. This explainer is a quest to define that very essence. We're not just going to list random facts today. We are looking at the exact specific rules that matter has to follow to wake up and be considered alive.
Okay, so here's our game plan to make this massive topic manageable. We're taking 3 logical steps. 1, the branches of biology. 2, the properties of life. And 3, the levels of organization. Let's dive right in.
All right, Section 1, the branches of biology. Basically, the science of life.
Our foundational text shows us that the very word biology gives us our perfect starting point. It comes from 2 Greek words, bios, meaning life, and logos, meaning science or study. So it is quite literally the science of living organisms. But obviously life on Earth is so incredibly diverse, we're talking everything from microscopic bacteria to gigantic blue whales, that there is no way a single scientist can study the whole thing at once. Because of that massive diversity, modern biology is split up into several highly specialized branches.
Let's look at some of these high-level branches. Think of biology as this massive umbrella. Right underneath it, you've got botany, which is the study of plants, everything from the tiniest moss on a rock to massive redwood trees. Then there's zoology, dedicated entirely to animals. But scientists don't just categorize life by what it is, they also categorize it by how it works. That is where anatomy comes in, mapping out the internal structure of living things. Physiology then takes that a step further, studying how those internal organs and systems actually function in real time. And of course, genetics, which unlocks the secrets of heredity and variability, basically how traits are passed down from one generation to the next.
And this perfectly illustrates how biology scales. On the really micro-focus side, we have scientists looking through microscopes. Cytology is the study of individual cells, and histology is the study of tissues. But then, zooming way out to the macro-focus side, ecology looks at the massive, complex relationships between living organisms and their environment. Evolution zooms out even further than that, looking at the historical development of life over millions of years. It's really all the same fundamental science, just viewed through totally different lenses.
Moving right along to Section 2, the properties of life. Think of this as the biological rule book.
Our source material describes life as a specific, qualitative form of existence for matter. And no matter how completely different 2 organisms might look, they absolutely all share specific properties. First up is the unity of chemical composition. Whether you are a human, a mushroom, or just a blade of grass, your primary building blocks are the exact same chemical elements: carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and hydrogen. Second is cellular structure. With the single, highly unique exception of viruses, every single living body is constructed from cells. They're literally the universal Lego bricks of life.
Next is a term you probably hear all the time at the gym, but it actually has a very precise biological meaning: metabolism, or energy and matter exchange. See, a rock just sits there, but a living organism absolutely must constantly interact with its environment to survive. It has to absorb nutrients and energy, and it has to get rid of waste products. Every single time you eat lunch, or honestly even just take a deep breath of oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide, you are actively participating in this fundamental property of life.
Now, what's really interesting is that metabolism isn't just one single action. It's a 2-part balancing act. On one hand, we have anabolism. This is the assimilation phase, where your body takes those nutrients and builds them into new tissues and energy reserves. It's the building up process. On the flip side, we have catabolism, which is the breaking down of complex substances to release energy and expel waste. So life is just this constant, super delicate seesaw between building up and breaking down.
And because of all that constant chemical chaos going on inside, living things absolutely require our next property: homeostasis, or self-regulation. This is the almost magical ability of an organism to maintain a constant, stable internal environment, even when the outside world is going completely crazy. Think about it.
When you step out into the freezing cold, your body instantly starts to shiver to generate heat, right? When you're running on a sweltering hot day, you sweat to cool down. Your body is fiercely protecting its internal chemical composition so that your biological processes can just keep flowing without interruption.
Life doesn't just exist, it reacts, it adapts, and it ensures its own future. Our source material highlights these dynamic properties perfectly. First, irritability, which just means the ability to respond to external or internal changes. If you accidentally touch a hot stove, you pull your hand back instantly, right? That's irritability. Then there's heredity and variability, the ability to pass specific traits to the next generation while also allowing for new, unique variations to pop up. We also have growth and development, both of the individual from birth to death and of the entire species over time. And finally, reproduction, the ability to produce organisms similar to yourself, driven by that incredibly complex data storage molecule we all know as DNA.
And that brings us to Section 3, the levels of organization, the true architecture of living systems.
Our material maps out this truly beautiful biological architecture, identifying 8 specific levels of organization in living nature. What we're about to do here is pretty incredible. We are going to zoom out, step by step, starting from the totally invisible and ending with the immense scale of the entire planet Earth. Ready?
Let's see how this all builds up, starting at the microscale. Level 1 is the molecular level. This is the simplest level of life, made up of nucleic acids, proteins, and carbohydrates. But molecules on their own aren't alive, so they group together to form level 2, the cellular level, the fundamental structural unit of life. From there, cells that share the same structure and function group up to form level 3, tissue. Different tissues then combine to form level 4, an organ, like your heart or your lungs. Finally, a system of organs works in perfectly coordinated harmony to create level 5, the organismal level, a complete, functioning individual. Basically, you.
But wait, the organization of life doesn't stop with the individual. It just keeps zooming out into the macro scale. A group of the same species living together forms level 6, the population species level. Then, different populations interacting with each other and their physical environment, sharing energy and matter, create level 7, the biogeosynotic level. You probably know that one better as an ecosystem. And finally, when you combine every single ecosystem on the planet, you reach the absolute pinnacle, level 8, the biospheric level. This encompasses literally all life on Earth and the entirety of its natural environment.
So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? Biology isn't just a subject in a textbook. It's a massive, deeply interconnected web of rules and systems that govern everything from the microscopic DNA in your cells to the sprawling forests of the biosphere. Everything is connected through the properties of life we discussed today. I want to leave you with a provocative thought to carry with you. As you sit here right now, taking in this explainer, which level of biological organization are you currently interacting with the most? Are you just an organismal system absorbing information? Or are you actively part of a larger population species level right now? Take this new biological lens, look at the world around you, and never stop questioning the fascinating science of life. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep exploring.